I don't know what to say, guys. Today is a bad day. It's an unhappy day. It's a sad day. Because today, for Tinto Talks number 30, which will be discussing Casus belli's war goals and integration, things. For this day, did not receive a Happy Wednesday. After something like 7 to 9 weeks consecutive, excluding the weeks where we didn't have a Tinto Talk, we had been receiving Happy Wednesdays every single time. A happy salutation, sometimes occasionally. A salutation sandwich with the Happy Wednesday at the beginning, at the end. Those are our favorites. But today, there's no Happy Wednesday. And it is a tragedy. It's a travesty. I think this means we're not going to play Europa Universalis 5. That's what it is. It says Project Caesar. It's Europa Universalis 5. It's also Project Teaser. It's also Project Not Happy Wednesday. And we get the tease here too. The time of the week. But he refuses to say the day and that it is happy. And instead, we will wallow in sadness. Okay, but let's get into it. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, the time of the week where we give you new information about our entirely super secret upcoming game with codename Project Teaser. Maybe Johan just forgot how to spell and he's trying to say Happy Wednesday and this is how it came out. I don't know. Today we will be talking about how Conquest works and how integrating the new locations you conquered will work. With Conquest, we are talking about the territory you take through warfare. For the actual military campaign's work, I recommend reading Tinto Talks 22, 23, and 24, where you will probably receive a Happy Wednesday, unlike these ones. This one. Okay. Casus belli. To start a war, many feel that you will need a casus belli for it, which we will refer to as a CB in the nomenclature for the rest of the talk. If you lack a CB and you start a war, you will gain some aggressive expansion and lose some stability. So this is kind of standard, part of the course via Europa Universalis 4. Now, while this may not be something you will always want, it is more lenient to recover instead of spending precious paper mana like an EU4. That's fair. However, there are multiple ways to get a CB in this game. Now, Project Caesar does not have a fabricate claim button that magically creates a CB for any nation, nor do we have a system of claims, but instead you have several different options to get a CB. Well, this is kind of nice, because fabricate claim was always kind of strangeness. But okay. First of all, there's the super old school way of getting one from an event. This may not cater to everyone's playing style, as it is too random, but if it was good enough for your parents back in 2001, it's good enough for you. Oh man, Jesus, starting to feel old here. Feel old yet? Your parents were playing old Europa Universalis. Secondly, if you were playing old Europa Universalis and then you're like, man, your parents, oh Jesus, okay. Secondly, we have the option of calling a parliament and asking them to come up with a valid reason for war against a nearby country. This is powerful, but unless you have a high crown power, you may need to negotiate with your estates for their backing. Very cool. And parliaments cannot be called every month either. Democracy is not even invented yet. Wait, that sounds wrong. Shout out to Athens. Except their democracy was one where, only adult males of certain class could vote. I can't remember if it's Athens or Sparta, where you had to own a suit of armor in order to vote, and suit of armor was very expensive. The idea being that the people who defended the state were the only ones who had a voice in the way of things. Might have been Sparta. I think it was Athens. Whoever was loudest, that's the vote they went with. This is very rudimentary democracy. And also, to be fair, it's probably developed over the course of a few hundred years, so might have had one system and then another. Finally, we have a way of creating a CB where there's more or less legitimate way to... when there's a more or less legitimate way to one. Okay. First of all, creating a CB on a country requires that you have a spy network in the target country, similar to how claim fabrication works in EU4, but you also need some sort of reason to create the type of CB you want. If you, let's say play Denmark and want to take the skein from Sweden, as you have cores on it, then you can create a Conquer core CB on them. Or if they have used privateers in the sea zone where you have maritime presence, you can create another CB on them. There are 50 plus different wow, that's a lot of CBs. You can create, depending on your circumstances, including everything from flower wars for countries of the Nathwatal religion, sorry if I mispronounced that, dissolving the Tartar yoke for tributaries under the international organization, or humiliating rivals. Okay, so there will be a lot of unique stuff. Man, this game's going to be like... keep coming back to stuff like Johan very early on in development said it was going to be more fleshed out than EU4 is now. And, like, I think that's just a super ambitious statement and probably sounds like hyperbole to me, but then you get stuff like there's 50 different CBs, which is like, counting to 50 is a trick, let alone declaring that many different types of wars. We get the first crusade against Lithuania, as one does. 31 allies and subjects for Bohemia. That seems like it's going to be bad for Poland. Just remember, no CB is best CB, that's true. War goals. Whether you decide that a small border adjustment is needed, we'll put it like that, or you wish to wage a total war, you need to pick up a war goal you wish to pursue. Different casus bellis will allow you to pick different war goals, and the war goal you pick impacts the cost of conquest as well. Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that in Victoria 3, huh? Where we, like, say, these are our diplomatic demands, and then at the resolution of the war, it is cheaper for us to enforce demands, but we can still enforce kind of whatever we want, kind of as per, the way the war resolution works in Victoria 3 is just insane. EU4 is so much better. But this sounds like a nice way of doing it. A conqueror's CB will make taking land cheaper, while a humiliate CB will make them more expensive. Just like having to put in all the stuff that you know you have to take at the beginning, and then like also getting war goals bricked is like the most frustrating experience. To be fair, they've actually gotten rid of most of the ways your war goals can get bricked in Vic 3, but like it's still the fact that your start and your end has to your start war goals and your end war goals have to be identical, and you can't make adjustments is strangeness. A war goal for a province you occupy requires that you occupy that entire province, while a naval superiority war goal will give you a bonus score for blockading an enemy and defeating their navy if possible. If your war goal is fulfilled, then war score ticks up to a maximum of 25, and the total impact from battles in the game can be worth up to 50, while occupation and blockades have no cap and can reach over 100 war score if possible. So you'll have to occupy a little bit in order to get a full 100 kind of enforcement, and then I assume that the system's going to work relatively similar to EU4, where if they send you a war, something that you like is significantly lower than the war score they have against you, and you refuse, you take like a stab hit, and so stuff like this, although it's been a while since we played EU4. In Project Teaser, the very special super secret project where we don't wish people happy Wednesdays, and therefore not every war is necessary for a total war like some previous games we made. If the war goal is not fulfilled, it is only possible to get 100% war score if the winning side controls the losing side's locations, and the losing side controls no towns or cities. This means that if you have your war goal taken care of, winning some important battles and occupying some land, you will be able to force a reasonable peace on someone. Reasonable. Most pieces feel less than reasonable. We have an independence of Calpe, where we see conquer cost for attacker is going to give the impact of the war goal, which makes sense. This is going to cost less. I don't know what this is, if this is costing less war score, less infamy, both this type of stuff. Okay. Give me liberty or annexation? Yeah, pretty much. Integration. So what do you do once you have signed a peace and you have some new land for your country? First of all, it is not as simple as being as a location being core or not, as Project Caesar introduces a new system integration, a new system, of course, relative to the Europa Universalis 4 or Europa Universalis line, which we still refuse to call it Europa Universalis 5, for integration for locations. There are 4 states of integration in this game. First, all the conquered locations, which will have a high separatism, lower control, and make pops unlikely to convert or assimilate. This is the state of any location you conquer that is not a core of yours. When a location becomes integrated, separatism drops to 1/5 of the previous levels, and control has a higher maximum. When a location becomes a core, the minimum control is higher, and your primary and accepted cultures grow more, while your minorities become stagnant. We also have the colonized status, which is after you have colonized a location and is not yet a core. A colonized location has lower maximum control. So all of this makes sense, and I do like the way that control is going to moderate your ability to blob out really hard, and this definitely seems an extension of this ability to blob, with the keeping in mind that your ability to establish control is going to have to do with the relative level of infrastructure you have to your capital, and this makes sense because governing a far-reaching, place is very difficult and expensive in this type of thing, and so this should be why blobbing is hard before technologies that make the administration of a far-flung empire a lot easier. One of the reasons the Romans were so successful, historically speaking, was the construction of roads, which allowed effectively a greater reach in regards to thinking of things in terms of control. It allowed a greater reach of the administrative capacities of the state from Rome, alongside being in the middle of the Mediterranean, where you had, sea access to much of the rest of Rome. These two things combined made it so that you could really get information from one place to another faster, and this should be the primary, kind of difficulty. And so, okay, this is what we have. What is separatism then? Well, is the reduction of satisfaction for pops that are not primary culture. This is very likely to make locations very unproductive for quite some time. A location becomes a core automatically if it's integrated or colonial, and at least 50% of the pops are of the primary culture or accepted culture in the country. Very interesting. So, is this the only way we can make it a core? There are 4 states of integration in the game. First of all the conquered locations which have a high degree of separatism, low control, and make more pops unlikely to converge or assimilate. This is the state of any location you conquer that is not a core of yours. When a location becomes integrated, separatism drops. Okay. How do we make things cores? Okay. Okay. How do you integrate a location then? Thanks. Asking the real questions. Well, this is the challenge in Project Teaser, as you do not have any magic paper mana to spend on it, and instead you must use one of the members of your cabinet to integrate it. Okay, fair enough. That makes some sense. At the start of the game, a cabinet member can integrate an entire province at once, but in the age of absolutism, you will have an advance that will let you integrate an entire area at once. So this will allow you to, get to the point where you can have expand your control over a far-flung empire much easier, and so this will also serve to moderate your ability to blob out in the early game, which I think should not be super easy. The integration is not instant, but depends on many factors, like the status of the population living in locations affected, and the average integrating a province may take between 25 and 50 years. That's a lot of years, although we're Victoria 3-pilled, so that's that's a quarter of the game. And it's going to be a bit less than that. But we do see integrate province, we see a bunch of these modifiers, and really, really cool how... one thing that I really like about the game so far, as it's been teased to us through Project Teaser, as it were, is that a lot of the systems feel very, very simple, but simultaneously influence each other. Much like when you back up a car or a truck. I actually have nothing for that metaphor, but there was a loud truck outside. Yeah, the shout out to not being able to come up with a metaphor. But you got to back it up and make your systems very simple in games, because adding complexity doesn't make the game more interesting. Adding depth makes the game more interesting, just like when you're adding a sculpture that you imported, and this is why you need a loud car or a loud backing it up. I have no idea where I'm going with this one, but the systems, adding complexity doesn't make a game more fun. Adding depth makes a game more fun, making it so that you have more things to think about, more decision points to make. And this is the best example of this is chess. Chess is an incredibly simple game. It's not complex. There's enormous amount of depth to chess. You can learn chess in an afternoon, but with so many different moving parts, or with so much... It's not that there's a ton of different moving parts, it's that chess is an elegant game. And so when you keep things simple and simultaneously have a bunch of different factors that influence stuff, this allows you to, play the game and then not be paralyzed by the game being infinitely complex, while simultaneously, the better you understand the game, the better you can perform, and the more you notice nuanced relationships that allow the game to become more interesting as you play it more. And so the entry level is not that high because the game is pretty simple and straightforward, and this is like kind of an indication of this. We can always be like, hey, we want to integrate, but then as your knowledge base grows and you understand what causes integration to become easier or harder, this allows you to you can play the game, but you can play the game more effectively when you understand the systems and modifiers better. Okay. stay tuned, as in next week's Tinto Talks, we will wish you a happy Wednesday, unlike this week, in which we did not wish you a happy Wednesday, which of course is a travesty, a crime. It's a terrible thing. We have a broken streak, and next week we will rectify it, except for, an unwished happy Wednesday is a lot like a plate, where, if you throw it on the ground, it breaks into a bunch of pieces, and you can't just put it back together again. You just can't do it. It's very sad. Okay, but other than that, feel free to do the YouTube algorithm thing, like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to go onto the forums and shake your shake your fist at Johan for not wishing us a happy Wednesday. But other than that, have a happy Wednesday, or at least as happy a Wednesday as you can, given the terrible news of us losing our happy Wednesday streak.